Chapter 5. Drawing the bow to shoot condors. A row of people came down the mountain. After walking for a while, they suddenly heard the roars of wild beasts in front of them. Han Baoju leaped on his yellow horse and went to see what was happening. After galloping for a while, the yellow horse suddenly stopped and no amount of urging would make it move. Knowing in his heart that there was something strange ahead, he stood in the stirrups and looked into the distance. He could see a group of people with some leopards clawing at the earth. Knowing the yellow horse's fear of leopards, he jumped off and took hold of his golden dragon whip. Moving forward, he saw that the two leopards had uncovered a body. Continuing forward a few more steps, he saw that the body was that of copper corpse Chen Xuanfeng. The area from his collarbone to his lower abdomen was a blood-covered mess, as though the skin had been sliced off. Surprised, he thought, he was killed by the boy last night with a dagger thrust through his navel, so why is his corpse here? Since he is already dead, why would anyone do this to his corpse? Who did it and what is the meaning behind it? Do the twin killers of the dark winds have another enemy in the desert with hatred that strong? Not long after, Zhu Chong and the others arrived. No one could understand the reason behind the mutilation. They looked at Chen Xuanfeng's corpse, whose face still showed a fierce expression, which caused a quick shiver of fear in everyone. Thinking back to last night's terrifying fight on the barren hills, they knew that if not for Go Jing's lucky hit with his dagger, the outcome might have been very different. Just thinking about it brought a chill to their hearts. By this time, the two leopards were chewing on the corpse. To one side, there was a little boy on a horse loudly urging the leopard handlers to drag the leopards away. Turning his head, he saw Go Jing, and shouted at him. "Ha! So you are hiding here. You didn't have the guts to help Louis fight, what a useless friend." It was Sengum's son Dux. "You all fought Louis again? Where is he?" Worried, Go Jing asked. "I'm taking the leopards to eat him up. You'd better surrender now, or else I will include you too," Dux replied smugly. He had seen the 6 freaks of the south at one side. If not for them, Dux would have already sent the leopards to attack Go Jing. Go Jing persisted. "Where's Louis?" Ignoring him, Dux shouted loudly, "The leopards will eat Louis now," as he led the leopard handlers away. One leopard handler advised him, "Little master, that boy is Temujin Khan's son." Dux immediately hit the leopard handler with a slash of his riding whip, shouting, "What is there to be afraid of? How dare he raise his hand to hit me today? Move aside." The leopard handler, not daring to disobey his order, followed Dux. The other leopard handler was afraid that this might cause some irreversible problems. He turned and ran, shouting, "I'm going to inform Temujin Khan." He was gone before Dux could stop him. Dux said bitterly, "Fine, by the time Uncle Temujin comes, it'll be too late. Then we'll see what kind of solution he comes up with." He whipped his horse, forcing the group to move faster. Although Go Jing was terribly afraid of leopards, he was more worried about his sworn brother's safety. He said to Han Zhaoying, "Sfu, Dux is going to get the leopards to eat my sworn brother. I need to inform him so he can escape. If you hurry there, maybe the leopards might eat you too. Aren't you afraid?" Han Zhaoying asked. He replied, "I'm afraid." "Are you still going?" After hesitating for a split second, Go Jing affirmed, "I'm still going," before running away rapidly. Because Zhu Chong's wound was still painful, he was quietly lying forward on his horse's neck. Noting Go Jing's chivalrous heart, he mused, "This child may not be very smart, but he is, nevertheless, a person worthy of our generation." Han Zhaoying replied, "Fourth brother's perception is right. Let's go save them." Quan Jinfa cautioned the rest, "This little lord keeps leopards at home. He must be the son of an important general. We'd better be careful not to create trouble since 3 of us are injured." Han Baoji used his lightness kung fu to catch, pick up, and place Go Jing on his shoulders. Although Han Baoju is small with short legs, he can still move very quickly. For Gojing, sitting on his fat and sturdy shoulders was like riding on a good war horse, fast and steady. Han Baoju rushed to Wind Chaser's side, and with a great leap, he took Gojing with him onto the horse's back. Within moments, they caught up with Duxch and the leopard handlers. After a short gallop, they saw 10 or more kids surrounding Talui. It was Duxch's gang following his orders. They were not trying to attack him, just trying to keep Talui from leaving. Having been taught 3 skillful moves by Zhu Chong, Talui had practiced the moves at night until he was familiar with them all. Come morning, he was not able to find Gojing or to get his third brother Ugdai to help him. Talui bravely went to fight Duxch by himself. Duxch had brought along 10 or so reinforcements. Seeing him alone rather surprised him. When Talui requested that they only fight one-on-one and not attack him as a group, Duxch agreed immediately. He thought that there's no way Talui could beat him. But once they started fighting, Talui kept using the 3 moves that Zhu Chong taught him, and incredibly, he managed to best Duxch. Although the 3 moves that Zhu Chong taught him were simple, they were actually the essence of the vacant fist technique. Furthermore, since these 3 moves had no complicated changes, Talui, being very smart, picked it up immediately. So when he used them, the other Mongolian kids were no match for him. The Mongolians place great importance on keeping promises. Since they had agreed to battle one-on-one only, and even though they were upset, they could not do anything about it. Talui made Duxch fall twice and even hit him on the nose. Duxch was furious, so he ran off to get his father's hunting leopards. After single-handedly winning against so many kids, Talui was very proud of himself. That was why he stood quietly in the center of the surrounding kids, not even thinking about running away. Unknown to him, big trouble was coming. From the distance, Talui heard Gojing's faint shouts. Talui, Talui, run away now. Duxch is bringing his leopards to eat you up. Talui was shocked and tried to rush out of the circle. But the kids surrounding him kept blocking him. There was no way for him to escape. Soon the 6 freaks of the south, together with Duxch, arrived one after the other. Following them, the leopard handlers led the leopards there. Though the 6 freaks of the south could have prevented the oncoming danger by catching Duxch, they did not want to create more trouble. They also wanted to see how Talui and Gojing faced the danger, so they did not offer any help. Suddenly, they heard the sound of numerous horses coming like the wind. Someone shouted at the top of their lungs, "Don't let the leopards go, don't let go of the leopards." Luckily, Borokla and the rest of the 4 aces had arrived. When they heard the leopard handlers report, they didn't have enough time to inform Temujin, and hurriedly rushed to the scene. Temujin, Ongkon, Jamuka, Sengam, and the others were at the Mongolian camp chatting with Wanyan Hongli and his brother. Hearing the leopard handlers report, they were shocked and ran out of the jeer and leaped on their horses. Quickly informed them that I ordered Duxch not to do this. It is important that Temujin Khan's son is not injured, Ongkon ordered. His men rode their most spirited horses to where the trouble was. Because Wanyan Hongshi was not able to see the leopards fighting against men yesterday, he was still feeling bored. Hearing this, he felt excitement rise and stood up exclaiming, "Let's all go take a look." Wanyan Hongli speculated, if Singam's leopards really kill Temujin's son, then their families will no longer be friendly. After that happens, they may start fighting. Who knows, maybe both sides will suffer terrible losses and be severely weakened. That will definitely be good fortune for my Jin country. The Wanyan brothers, Ongkon, Sengam, Jamuka, and the others arrived at the scene, only to see that the 2 hunting leopards' chains had already been unfastened. The leopards crouched on the ground with low growling noises coming from their throats. In front of the leopards stood 2 kids, Talui and his younger sworn brother Gojing. Temujin and his 4 aces raised their bows and pointed them at the leopards. They were ready for action. Although Temujin saw his youngest son in a dangerous situation, he also knew that those two hunting leopards were very precious to Sangam. Sangam had caught the leopards when they were young. He reared and trained them until they grew strong and ferocious. Since that could not be achieved easily and took much time, Temujin felt that if the leopards did not attack, he wouldn't harm them. Seeing the crowd arriving and relying on his grandfather's and father's adoration for him, Daksh felt even more courageous. He kept urging the leopards to attack. Ongkon then shouted, "Stop this now!" The sound's hooves were heard as someone riding a red horse arrived. On the horse was a middle-aged woman, clad in leopard fur, and in her arms, a little girl. It was Temujin's wife, Talua's mother. She had been chatting in the camp with Sangam's wife. When she heard the news, she immediately rushed out with her daughter Huazeng. Seeing the danger, she was both shocked and worried. She shouted, "Quickly, shoot the arrow!" With all her being focused on her son, she absent-mindedly placed her daughter on the ground, forgetting about her safety. As a little girl of 4 years, how was Huazeng supposed to know of the leopard's ferocious nature? She happily bounded over to her brother's side. Spotting the leopards with their pretty colored fur, she was reminded of her second brother Ogday's hunting dogs. She stretched her hand out, wanting to pat the leopard's head. The crowd was startled and yelled at her to stop, but it was already too late. The two leopards, already nervous and agitated, growled at the same time and leaped forward fiercely. Alarmed, the crowd called out in distress. Although Temujin had already aimed his arrow, Huazeng's sudden appearance was something that no one had expected. In the blink of an eye, the leopards were in the air. Huazeng was blocking Temujin's aim at the strategic spot on the leopard's head where they have to be hit to ensure an instant kill. A shot by Temujin now would only injure the leopard, and that would aggravate it further. The four aces threw down their bows and drew their knives. As they moved forward, they saw Go Jing roll forward to pick up Huazeng. At the same time, one leopard's front claws were on Go Jing's shoulder. The four aces raised their knives, only to hear several faint sounds. When the noises passed, the two leopards suddenly fell growling and rolling from side to side. After a short time, they were motionless. Borokal went forward to find out what had happened. He saw blood running from the leopards' foreheads. It was obvious that a kung fu master had used a hidden weapon to hit the leopard's brains. He turned around and saw 6 calm, composed Han people standing to one side watching the ongoing scene. He knew that the hidden weapons had been thrown by them. Temujin's wife hurriedly picked up the now bawling Huazeng from Go Jing's arms and pulled Talui to her bosom as she tried to comfort Huazeng. Sangam asked angrily, "Who killed the leopards?" The crowd remained silent and no one answered. Kazhener had heard the leopards' growls, and fearing that the leopards would harm Go Jing, had thrown 4 projectiles with poisonous tips. Since that action only took a wave of the hand, and since everyone had their eyes focused on the leopards, there was no one who actually sought to fire them. Temujin smiled and said, "Brother Sangam, I'll repay you with 4 good leopards when we get back, and I'll add 8 pairs of black eagles." Sangam was seething with anger when he heard that, but he remained silent. By now, Ongkon was angrily scolding Daksh. Humiliated at receiving this treatment in front of the crowd, he tried to deflect the blame from himself. In a fit of temper, he lay down on the ground and began rolling and hitting, crying and shouting. Ongkon loudly commanded him to stop, but he did not care. Because Temujin was still grateful for what Ongkon had done for him in the past, he felt that it would be a pity to break up the two families' friendship over such a small matter. He smiled and bent over to pick up Daksh. Daksh was still crying and yelling and tried his best to struggle, but could not. Still smiling, Temujin tried to salvage the situation. "Stepfather, the kids were only playing, there's no need to get worked up. I think he is a good boy and am thinking of betrothing my daughter to him. What do you think?" Ongkon saw that Huazeng had eyes like glistening dew, and skin like a baby lamb, fair and cute, and felt happy in his heart. Laughingly, he said, "What could be wrong with that? Let's have an even closer relationship. I'll betroth my eldest granddaughter to your son Jochi." Temujin agreed. "Thanks, stepfather." He turned around and said to Sangam, "Brother Sangam, we are now in-laws." Sangam had always felt that he was of a higher status than Temujin. He was already jealous of Temujin, yet looked down on him. Although he was not happy about becoming in-laws with Temujin, he could not go against his father's wishes. He could only smile weakly. At this point, Wanyan Hongli noticed the 6 freaks of the south, and he was shocked. "What are they doing here? I'm sure they are chasing me. I wonder if the temperamental Taoist priest with the surname Q is around here as well?" he asked himself. Since he currently had the protection of numerous soldiers, he was not afraid of them. But if he gave the command to capture them, he was afraid that it might cause trouble. The 6 freaks were listening to Temujin's and the others' conversations and had not even noticed him. He turned and moved behind the crowd of soldiers, while at the same time thinking of ways to handle the matter. As for Ongkon and Temujin's family's engagement, he did not think much of it. Temujin knew that it was the 6 freaks of the south that saved his daughter's life, and he waited for Ongkon and the others to leave, before commanding Borogel to reward them richly with furs and gold. He then reached his hand out to stroke the top of Go Jing's head and repeatedly praised him for his courage and valor. Temujin said that risking his own life to save another is something that not all adults will do, much less a small child. When he asked Go Jing why was he so brave, Go Jing just stood there dumbly since he could not find an answer. After pondering for some time, he said, "Leopards will eat people." Hearing that, Temujin laughed loudly. Tolui then told why he started fighting with Daksh. When Temujin heard how Daksh kept mentioning embarrassing events from his past, anger boiled deep in his heart. He said nothing about it, only saying, "In the future, don't bother with him." Temujin then turned to Quan Jinfa and asked, "How much gold do you want to stay in my camp to teach my son Kung Fu?" Quan Jinfa thought, "We were thinking of finding a place to teach Go Jing Kung Fu. If we can teach him here, there would no better place." He replied, "The Great Khan's willingness to accept the 6 of us is something we could not have asked for. You can pay us whatever you decide is suitable. We won't dare to discuss or argue about the amount." Temujin was pleased and he told Borogel to look after them. After that, he left to see off the Wanyan brothers. The 6 freaks of the south rode slowly behind the others while they discussed the matter. Han Baoju said, "The skin on the chest of Chen Xuanfeng's corpse was removed by someone. It must have been an enemy of his." Quan Jinfa replied, "The twin killers of the Dark Winds are cruel and ruthless. Having many enemies isn't something to be surprised at. But I don't understand why his enemy didn't simply chop up his body, or slash him all over. Why only slice off a large piece of skin from his chest? I have been thinking of that all this time, but I still cannot figure out the reasoning behind it," Kazhener replied. "The most pressing task at hand is to find out where Iron Corpse is." "Precisely. If that person is not killed, she will bring much danger to us in the future. I'm afraid that she will not die from the poison," Zhu Chong agreed. With tears in her eyes, Han Zhaoying spoke up, "5th brother's dead, how could we not avenge him?" So Han Baoju, Han Zhaoying, and Quan Jinfa rode their fast horses to try to find Iron Corpse. But after numerous days of searching, they were not able to find a trace of her. Han Baoju considered, the woman's eyes were hit by elder brother's poison projectiles. The poison must have worked on her by now. She probably died in some mountain valley. The rest of them agreed. Kazhener knew in his heart that the twin killers of the Dark Winds were very smart and devious. Unless he could touch her corpse with his own hands, it would always remain a heavy weight on his heart. He did not want to bother his younger brothers and sister with his worries and did not tell them of his concerns. From then on, the 6 freaks of the south remained on the steppe, teaching Go Jing and Tolui Kung Fu. Temujin knew that Kung Fu is for protecting oneself in close contact with an opponent. He wanted Lui and Gojing to learn these techniques briefly, and to spend most of their time learning riding, shooting with their bows and arrows, and learning other important skills of the battlefield. The 6 freaks of the south were not familiar with these Mongol skills, so Gojing and Lui learned these from Jeb and Borokl. In the evenings, the 6 freaks of the south taught Gojing alone, teaching him fists, sword, hidden weapons, and lightness Kung Fu. Although Gojing was slow by nature, he knew that he had to avenge his father in the future using Kung Fu, so he did not complain and worked as hard as he could. Zhu Chong, Quan Jinfa and Han Xiaoying's Kung Fu were a bit too hard for him to comprehend. With Han Baozhu and Nan Ziren's basic Kung Fu, he just followed their directions exactly and slowly but steadily learned it. This basic Kung Fu strengthened bodies but was not designed to overcome an enemy and win a fight. Han Baozhu often said, "Training you is like training a camel. Strong is strong, but can a camel be victorious over a leopard?" Whenever he heard that, Gojing only showed a silly smile. When the 6 freaks taught Gojing, they only supervised his learning, instead of explaining it to him. Of the 10 moves they tried to teach him, he couldn't learn a single one. They could not help feeling discouraged. Whenever they talked about it, they would only sigh and shake their heads. Although they knew that their chances of being victorious over Qiuchuji's disciple were almost non-existent, an agreement had been made so they couldn't give up. As a businessman, Quan Jinfa's talents lay in the field of intricate calculations. He often said, "For Qiuchuji to find the Yang family widow, I figure he has about an 80% chance of success. That improves our chances by 20%. Whether the Yang family widow gave birth to a boy or girl, who knows? The chance that she gave birth to a boy is only half. With that, we potentially gain another 40%. If it's a son, maybe he won't survive to adulthood, we then gain another 10%. Even if he manages to grow up, maybe he'll be as stupid as Jinger. Therefore, I'd say that we still have an 80% chance of winning." The other 5 freaks thought that what he said wasn't wrong, however, saying that the Yang family's son's aptitude for learning martial arts might be the same as Gojing's, they had to know that Quan Jinfa was trying to console them. Luckily, Gojing had a good heart and he is exceedingly obedient, so the 6 freaks really liked his character a lot. On the prairies of Outer Mongolia, the coming of green summer grass and the brilliant white of winter snows, 10 years quickly went by. Gojing had become a sturdy youth of 16. There were only 2 years left until the martial arts competition, so the 6 freaks stepped up their supervision. They ordered him to stop practicing riding and shooting temporarily, and from dusk to dawn, concentrate on practicing fists and the sword. During these 10 years, Temujin had many battles and had swallowed up numerous other tribes into his own. He commanded his subordinates strictly, and all his soldiers were courageous and excelled in fighting. He was both courageous and resourceful and knew when to attack using force or attack using strategy. In all of Mongolia, no one could be compared to him. As the livestock breadth and numbers grew, the population also increased, so that the differences between Temujin and Ongkan's tribes became smaller. The violent winds gradually stopped and the heavy snows began to decrease, but the outer prairies of Mongolia still remained bitterly cold. A certain day arrived. It was the Pure Brightness Festival. Note Qingming Festival. A day for paying respects to the dead. The Chinese pay their respects at their ancestors' or families' graves and may clean up the grave and pull out the weeds, etc. The 6 freaks of the south arose early and Gojing with them. They took cows and sheep as sacrificial items to Zhang Asheng's grave and swept it. Since the Mongolians are nomads, they move around more or less continuously. They have no fixed place to stay. At this point in time, the Mongolian camp was quite far away from Zhang Asheng's grave. Even riding fast horses, it took them more than half of a day to get there. The 7 of them climbed the barren hill and swept away the piled-up snow from the grave. They then lit candles, burned incense, and knelt in front of the grave praying. Han Xiaoying secretly prayed, "Fifth brother, for the past 10 years we have given all of our energy and our hearts to teach this child. His gift for learning isn't good and he can't learn our martial arts properly. I hope that fifth brother's spirit in the heavens will watch over him now and at the Jiaxing martial arts competition in 2 years' time. Do not let this child spoil the prestige and name of the 7 freaks of the South." The 6 freaks were born and lived their lives in the South, with its warm hills and waters. During the time they stayed in the Mongolian desert with its cold winds, they had become weaker and frailer and their faces looked lean and somber. The hair at their temples had started turning white. Although Han Xiaoying's charisma and attractiveness had not lessened, she was no longer the pink-cheeked young girl of yesteryear.